I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I was always into business. And as it turns out, my high school, like a lot of high schools now, didn't really have business classes for students. And I'd already been starting businesses, and I was 15, maybe 16 years old when I went down and got it and signed up for junior achievement. And there was maybe 15 of us, I think, and kids would come and go, but it was sponsored by Cyclops Steel. And we made cookie trays. And so I was the guy who was great at going out and selling, and we had other people who did the manufacturing of the cookie trays, right? And we had our manufacturing lined up, and we had to understand our cost of goods sold, and we had to understand, because we had to, it was Cyclops Steel, so they would get us these printed sheets of metal, and then we'd have to line them up and crimp them, right? So we had these things on the edges, and that made them from just pieces of metal to cookie sheets. And we had to learn all that and understand all that, and understand inventory and understand the whole process of getting it from original materials, all the way through the finished product. It was real business. It wasn't, let's talk about it. It wasn't, read this book. It was, you are starting a business, and you are going to run an actual business. You're going to understand how the economics work. You're going to understand a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet. And for kids our age, those were foreign concepts. I mean, kids today in high school, in middle school, don't understand those concepts. And so it really got me oriented. And then it also made me realize that without sales, you don't have a company. Sales cures all. There's never been a company ever succeed without sales. And so sometimes entrepreneurs will get caught up and say, well, I'm going to hire somebody to do all that. It's your company. It's your baby. And if you don't love to sell your product or service, I mean, deep inside of you, just know that every single time you make a sale, the world is a better place. And literally, that's what you need to think. Every time you sell your product, I don't care if it's a popsicle. Every time you sell your product and someone, sucks on that popsicle and feels that it tastes that taste and feels the cold goodness of a popsicle, you have made the world a better place. And that's what you've got to think about with your product. I'm competitive. I wanted a better life for myself. I wanted a better life for my family. I wanted to show people that I could do it, that I was more capable than they thought I was. So my senior year in college, I opened up a bar right before I turned 21. And it was the hot bar on campus, which was great. I did it with a friend named Evan Williams. But then from there, I went back to Pittsburgh actually for a little bit, worked at Mellon Bank, and then went down to Dallas, just said, okay, I need to go somewhere different, and hooked up with a bunch of my buddies, lived 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, and got a job working as a bartender at night and selling software during the day, and did the software for about 9 months till I got fired. That's when I started my first real business, and I had no choice. I'm sleeping on the floor. I got no bed. I got no nothing. I'm literally living off of 2 for $99 suits. They stood up on the corner, water would hit that polyester and it would just bead. I started a company called Micro Solutions, and I still have my notepads here. I kept them, writing the whole thing up. In my 9 months working at the software store, I learned a lot about computers, and I realized I had an aptitude for technology and for selling. And what was the best part about it was I liked it. Some things you might be good at and not like. I found out I was a geek. I didn't know, but I was a tech geek and loved every minute of it, and loved learning and loved digging in and loved reading all about it and just learning more. And the more I worked at learning, the better I got. And that led me to starting this company, and went to this company called Architectural Lighting. I said, I just got fired. I'm broke, but I know, from you coming in as a potential customer, as the lead in that last company, that you want this billing software. If you'll front me the $500 so I can go buy it, I promise I will make it work no matter what, and you will be my first customer. And if it doesn't work, I'll walk your dog, I'll wash your car, I'll, lay carpet if you need me to lay, if you need a lousy, someone to lay carpet. And they said yes. And that company, Architectural Lighting, became my first customer. It worked. They led to it. They referred me to someone else, who referred me to someone else, who referred me to someone else. And I just, I would go to the computer stores back then and hand out business cards and say, if you need somebody to help install computers so you can sell more computers, call me. And they did. And, then I hired one of my friends. Then I brought in a partner. And then we grew Micro Solutions so that 7 and a little bit years later, probably not even 7, but about 7 years later, we got to sell it, and we were up to 30+ million in sales, and we had been profitable every month of our existence. And it was a great lesson, but that was my first real company. Learn, 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 learn. When you get into business, you're competing with somebody, and that person or company you're competing with isn't saying, let's just let this guy or woman we're going to give them all our business. Let's just quit. Nobody's saying that. You have to compete. And so you're going to always have to know your business, know your product, know your service, know your industry, know your competition better than anybody. And then part 2 is the one thing in life you can control is your effort. You got to work. You got to put in the time, and if you're competing against me, and anticipate that you're going to be competing against Mark Cuban, I'm going to kick your butt if you don't put in the time, because I promise you, I am going to put in the time, and the people around me are going to put in the time. College. I mean, look, counting's the same whether you're paying $50,000 a year or you're paying $100 a year. You can be going to a junior college, and debits and credits still add up the exact same way. A balance sheet still looks the exact same way. Statement of cash flow still looks at the exact same way. And so there are foundational things that you learn that you don't need, a big fancy education from. And then, selling. Being a salesperson, once you realize it's about helping and putting yourself in the position of the person you're trying to work with and sell to, selling becomes easy. If you've got a good product, and you're always, the salesperson is always part of the product, and you're honest and supportive and authentic, then good things can happen. And these are all things that, I picked Indiana University because I saw a list of the top business schools, and it was the cheapest one. I had never set foot on campus until I got there. I had no idea what I was going to get into. But it worked out. It was one of the best decisions, if not the best decision I ever made. If you are willing to put in the time, especially now, because a lot of things that are relatively straightforward, you can learn online. You can take a Coursera class. There's so many different ways to learn the language of business. And people always ask me, should you go to college? If I want to start a business right now, should you go to college? I'm like, yeah, you should go to a college that you can afford, first of all, because learning the language of business is always going to pay dividends, always. Because the fact that I put in the time to learn finance and accounting and marketing and understood entrepreneurship and selling and all these different business law, that meant I wasn't nearly as dependent on other people. So as a small business person who was broke, I could read a balance sheet and an income statement. I understood manufacturing and cost of goods sold and figured out a lot of that because of junior achievement. All those things that I learned in JA held true all the way through. But, being able to take it to the next level and have a fundamental understanding, you need to learn those things. But it's okay to take that Coursera or Udemy or whatever class and test out, and save yourself some money. But you're going to have to learn them if you want to take the most direct path to success. Where people aren't starting businesses, that's where the greatest opportunity is. And I invest a lot in underserved communities. I invest a lot in people of color. And I don't want them to come into my world. I want them to take me into their world, because there aren't enough startups in underserved communities. There aren't enough entrepreneurs who are people of color. And again, starting businesses that connect to their communities is a huge opportunity right now because there's not a lot of competition. And it's not like there's not a lot of economic opportunity. There's a ton of it. It's just that, it's not typical for entrepreneurs to be in that environment, and they don't do a good enough job in those schools teaching much of anything, let alone entrepreneurship and business. And so really, I tell people that you don't have to have any sweat equity is the best equity. You don't have to go out and raise money. You can find anything that you can sell. There's so many things that you can sell or services you can offer that are suitable to any community. And because you understand your community, the people that are your neighbors, that live around you, that live in your complex, those are the people that, because you know them, you can figure out what they might want to buy. And your customer base doesn't have to be wealthy. People are always looking to be more efficient, looking to save money, looking for better products at a better price. And there's no reason why you can't do it. One thing that I always try to tell myself, and I encourage everybody, if you do the work and you have a good idea, come up with a prototype. Just come up with a sample. Find something that you can sell. And when you're not sure, just ask yourself, why not me? Why can't you be the kid that goes out there and starts this business that starts small and turns into something special? If you're looking to start a business, you don't need to start the next Google. If you can, great, right? But nothing wrong with selling garbage bags door to door. Nothing wrong with selling something that you make in your neighborhood. Nothing wrong with running errands for people or getting things done for people, because all that gives you a chance to understand how business works and to make some money and to take that and grow from there. And look, no business plan is right. The numbers in every single business plan are wrong, 100% wrong. But they're a guideline for you, and it's a starting point. And as long as you don't lie to yourself about it. Too often entrepreneurs get all excited about their business and oh, it's going to be $1 billion business. So if you watch us on Shark Tank, the minute somebody comes in and says it's $1 billion market and all I have to do is get 1%, and that's 10 million in sales, I'm out. You're going to get this immediately. Immediately, you're going to hear me say that. You got to start with your first customer and work your way up one customer at a time and grow it from there. Whether you're the most advanced technological business or a tiny business selling paper, whatever it may be, we all have to take those first steps. Business changes all the time. Every single day it's evolving and changing. And, one of my strengths has always been, like I mentioned earlier, I love to learn. And there's always going to be something I can learn from them about their industry, about their approach. Unfortunately, they're all younger than me now. And so, just Gen Z is different than millennials or different than older generations. And so, they have different expectations and work differently. And so I learn a lot from them from that perspective. But there's always something. I mean, I'm still learning every single day from everybody that I possibly can. And every entrepreneur that I do a deal with, I learn from. If you're putting everything you have into your company, I mean, all my companies that I've started, I've had dreams and woke up, solved problems in my sleep, daydream, I've had, dates and spouses and children going, hello, dad, where you at? Because it's your baby. You're concentrating so hard all the time and it just consumes you. And that's a good thing. Some people talk about balance. I was never very good at balance. Some people are able to pull that off. I just never was, and continue not to be to a certain extent. But yeah, if you're all consumed by it, that's not a bad thing. But again, you have to be very self-aware. You have to be aware of your own mental health. You have to be aware that you're not misleading yourself. So often entrepreneurs lie to themselves and say, oh, this is going great when it's awful, right? or my product is the best product in the world or best service in the world, when it's awful, and you're just not paying attention to the fact that, sometimes they're not realistic, and that's a challenge all entrepreneurs have. There's nothing that I learned in junior achievement that I didn't use over and over and over and over again. I mean, it literally was better than some college business classes I took. That's why I try to do as much as I can with junior achievement, and it was so important to me and helped me learn so much about business. I had the confidence that I could get to the point of starting a business. Did I know it would be successful? No. I was terrified, and from my first businesses, I can just tell you the terror, because that was my job. That was how I paid my bills, or tried to pay my bills, and there was no fallback. Damon John on Shark Tank calls it the power of broke. When you're literally broke and you have no choice, you try to find a way. It may not happen your first company, but there's a good chance it's going to happen your second, third, or fourth time. And like I tell my kids and anybody who will listen, it doesn't matter how many times you fail, you only have to be right one time.